Like this guy was recording like in the desert, and you see like right behind him.
Okay, here we go. I told you yesterday that France was going to become a playa, and here is the reality on the ground was that France controlled huge areas of North America, sort of. It's not like they had gobs and gobs of people in the blue area. But if you're the French and you want to control the blue area, and you know the British are right here, right? What might you consider building militarily to make sure that the British do not expand into Team Blue?
Wall.
A wall, okay.
Build that wall.
A trench. Anything else? Maybe forts? Okay. Exactly. So the French will do exactly what we've concluded, forts. Okay? They're going to build a series of forts along the blue-gray border on the blue side so that they're not seen as invading the British area either, but that will prevent the British from expanding westward, which goes directly against British plans of doing exactly that, expanding westward. So now we have a problem. We now have the French that are now in the way of British plans for expansion. So this slide has some conclusions. Remember yesterday we were looking at 3 different types of British colonies. We are now looking at the French colonies and some interesting differences. For one, it was all royal. There were no proprietary colonies. There were no religious-based colonies. It's under Louis's control, period. For another, it's one colony. This one. That's it. It's not 13 semi-autonomous colonies created for different reasons. It's one colony under the king's control. The end. And none of this representative assembly crap. You are under direct royal control. There are no rights. There's no trial by jury crap. This is under the king's control, period. Okay. Now, for the most part, I will say that the French who lived in the area, they were hunters, trappers, mountain men, right? They got along kind of well with the Native Americans, right? It's the natives did not see them necessarily as a threat. Unlike the gobs and gobs of colonists, the British colonists that are coming in every day on these boats, a few French traders. It's not overwhelmingly French, but the French have plans for, they have plans. The French have plans. Oh, oui, oui. I have to go, oui, oui. Okay. Any questions here? Sorry? May I advance? That's a yes. Okay, so we now, as I've said, we now are going to have a conflict. It's called, well, it has multiple names. In North America, it was called the French and Indian War. But it was also part of a larger war. The French and the British fought each other in Europe too. Frankly, they fought each other in several places. It's actually considered one of the first world wars. If we actually thought about what world wars are, we're actually on like World War VII right now, right? Just because the name of it is World War II, that doesn't mean that's the last world war or even the Second World War, right? If this is a conflict between the British and the French, and they fought here, but they also fought in Europe, and they also fought in parts of the Caribbean, and they also fought parts of India, that's a world war. We don't call it a war. Okay. Guess how long it lasted?
7 years.
Let's see, is that right? So 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62. Yes! 7 years. Are you like me? How many of you is the words French and Indian War the first time you've ever seen that collection of words together? That before today, you didn't even know that was a thing, the French and Indian War. Any of you? So several of you have heard of the French and Indian War before.
Yeah.
Are you like me? When I was your age, I always thought the French and Indian War was a war between the French and the Indians.
Yeah.
Like the French fought the Indians.
That's what makes it sound like.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. But that's not right. Right? The French and Indian War was a war between the French and their Native American ally, the Huron, against the British and their Native American ally, the Iroquois. That's the conflict. Okay. Now, I could spend time talking about why that thing blew up red and why that thing blew up blue. And look at this long arrow here. And there's something called Amherst, and there's something called Wolf. No, we're not going to do any of that. This is not a military history class. Just know that the conflict occurred because the French were building forts based on this. They were building forts along the blue line, right up to the blue line. So here's the dividing line, sorta. And so if you're the British, what would you do in response? Kill them! Wow. Make your own forts. Exactly. But do you see? Let's go back to this map because I think it's more useful. If the French build their fort on the blue side of this line and the British build their fort on the gray side of this line,
no, they're stuck.
What?
They just run.
Are they right next to each other?
Yeah.
Hey, look, a British fort, with cannons pointed at us, Okay, I mean the potential for conflict raises because there's the enemy and here we are and we're kind of close to each other. Okay, so as a specific example, I tell you about that one right there. This is sort of how it all started. So the dividing line. Here's another one of these stupid maps. The people decided to make the British colonies a slightly darker shade of green than the French colonies, which is a slightly lighter shade of green. Do you see? There's the dividing line, right there. See it?
I didn't see it. They pointed out.
Yeah. Why? But that's why I chose it. Because it's funny. The French built a fort right here. You see it? It's called Fort Duquesne. Today we call it Pittsburgh. That's what it is, Pittsburgh. Okay. Well, the British said, all right, well, we're going to build our fort. They called it Fort Necessity. Look where the British built their fort.
On the French line.
On the French side. They messed up. The British built their fort, not intentionally. They thought they were in the British part, but they were in the French part. There's a guy, the guy that was in control of this. He by profession was a surveyor. He was supposed to be pretty good at it. And he effed up real bad. Later on, he became our first president. That's him. This is young George Washington, an officer in the British military. Right? That tells you that Georgie here isn't thinking of himself as we, they yet. He still thinks of himself as we, the British. We're the British. And they're the enemy, the French. Okay, there's the we, they. Now, later on, obviously, George would change his mind and create a new we, they. But this is young George. Okay, who built the fort on the wrong side. The fort was attacked by the French. George withdrew, but now it's on. Let's go. It's on? It's on? Oh, yeah. ... It's on. And I mean, it's on.
Please excuse this interruption.
It's
Jonathan DeRozier to the office at this time.
Oh,
Please. Thank you.
yeah. It's on. It's on? Oh, yeah. It's on. Now, I wrote that up here. I know this is stupid. That's a test question. Question, it's on?
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Don't forget the knowing nod. The knowing nod. You know the knowing nod.
Wait, so
The principal walks in, opens the door, witnesses what is going on in here. 10 seconds later, this is what she does. Walks away. Like, yep, I approve. That's my dream. That is a test question. Isn't that stupid?
No.
Shouldn't the
Sure it
first
is.
you have an accent too? Why is only the second you had an accent?
Oh, you're right. Isal?
It sound?
Isal?
Oh, yeah. It sound.
Let's go.
Wait, are the dots gonna be part of the
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Oh, the other options will be yes, it's on. Isal. Oh, yeah. Isal.
sound.
Let's roll this out.
Can't wait to see that one. That's my favorite.
So now let's revisit this idea. Okay, the war is on. Here come the British soldiers to fight against the French and the Iroquois side by side with their colonial officers and soldiers who are part of the British military. You understand? The British military is made up of two different entities. The colonial part, the people that were born here and raised here, like Georgie here, fighting side by side with British soldiers who came from Britain across the Atlantic and then fought. And they did not intermix, they fought separately. Two different military entities allied with each other against the common foe, the French. Right? Think of World War II. They did not mix Americans with the French and the British and just make a mutt military. No, the British fought, and then the Americans fought, French fought, right? When we get to the Normandy landing, the Allies landed at 5 different spots. The Americans had these 2, the British had these 2, and they gave Canada one. Because Canada wanted to feel important. So they gave them one, right? So same thing here, right? That the Americans fighting for the British are fighting separately from regular British soldiers. And that was noticed. It was noticed by the British that, gee, it's like the colonists don't trust us. They're not fighting for their lives to save our lives. There was a disconnect that seemed to be going on here. It's almost like they don't consider themselves British. So we'll revisit that later. Last slide. I said this already. This was part of a larger conflict. So while the conflict is happening here, this would be the French and Indian part of this larger conflict. They were also fighting in Europe, over the shaded red area there. They were also fighting in parts of India. So this is British against the French in multiple spots. Yes?
They're fighting in Portugal too.
Looks like it. A little bit of fighting in Portugal. Yep.
Why?
I don't know. This isn't a Portuguese history class, so what was this about? I don't know. Go over there and find out, right? Listing all of the places where fighting occurred as part of this war: Europe, America, the Caribbean, some other place called India, Africa, the Philippines. I may have made some mistakes on this.
There we go.
Sorry. The French really were focusing on most of their military on Europe. So the French might be doing well here, which meant that they weren't doing all that well in North America. Sorry. A lot of stuff here. Sorry. This is a big idea, so I'm going to let you write it down and then let's chat about it. In the middle of the war, all 13 colonies met in Albany, which is today the capital of New York. 1754. Who knows? How many years before the American Declaration of Independence? So 1754. Do some math here. Do some math. Oh, math.
What's in the 1780s?
Is it 21?
Let's take a 6.
A few.
Declaration was 1776
Oh,
minus 1754 is 21. Very good. No, it's 22. It's 22 years. 22 years before. Wow, my math is bad. 22 years before the Americans said, we've had it, they came up with this plan. The Albany Plan of Union. What's union? What does that mean? Union. What is that?
They're together.
It means we're fighting separately, right? No, we're fighting, everyone. Together. Okay, great. Right? Hey, colonists, fellow colonists, let's create a single military unit. The French are one unit. Let's fight a single military unit. Let's fight for each other. Let's not have a New York military and then a separate Virginia military and a separate South Carolina. Let's have one military. One military. We. Let's have a we.
Intelligence 100.
Okay. To head this military, let's create a Congress. We have a rich tradition of having legislative bodies in the 13 colonies. Let's create a Congress, and this Congress will be able to raise money to fund this military that we're going to create. One military unit. It's going to be sweet. And the answer was no. No! I'm not going to die for some guy in New York. I'm not New Yorkian. I'm a South Carolinian. I will fight for the South Carolina militia. I'll fight and die for the South Carolina militia. Do you understand this big concept? Are we a we yet?
No.
I know one person in this room who's incredibly confused right now. No apology, right? We're not a we yet. We are not a we yet. We know who they are. We're not them. But we don't know who we are yet. Right? Does that make sense? Somebody came up with the idea. Let's have one military. And the answer was no. No. We're going to fight separately. 13 separate militaries. Wow. Wow, that's kind of amazing, isn't it? That the conclusion was no, we're not gonna fight together. 22 years later, they're declaring their independence, saying that we are the United States of America, that we are a we. So last thing, this is it, and then we're gonna shift gears here. The thing to conclude is something happened between this and this. Something happened so that not only can we identify that we're not they, but we are we. We're a we. And not the little game console. Is that even a thing anymore? We? Okay, we fit. Now, what that something is, we're going to have to look at later. Okay. Questions or comments? We're going to shift gears now. Notes away. Let's think now. I need you to retrieve the paragraph that you're supposedly working on that's due Monday. Come on, let's go. Including all documentation you should be using in order to successfully complete said paragraph. Let's go, retrieve. While you're doing that, I'm giving you something. Okay, so we're both doing something right now. Where is it?
Oh, is this the first Minnesota thing?
October 30th.
Oh, no.
Laura's water. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, we can.
Don't want to spend too much time on this because so much else to do here, but you do know that you are right now a Golden Gopher. You are part of the University of Minnesota Somerset campus. The U requires that we go there twice. This is part one. So on October the 23rd, no, the 30th. We're going on the 30th.
That's the day before Halloween.
Very good. We are going to the U, basically to tour the campus, give me an opportunity to show you, okay, that's the building where we will be going in the spring. That's where you'll be meeting all these other students who are taking the same course. And by the way, they're much smarter than you. No, of course, you'll have an opportunity to realize, like, you're just as smart as all those kids from Lakeville and Hill Murray and all the other big Minnesota schools. Every year it happens. On the bus ride there, we're the dumbest. They're so much smarter than us. And on the way back, we're just as smart as they are. They have the same hopes, loves, fears as all of us. So you'll see a couple things that should pique your interest. One is this piece of paper filled out is due by October the 23rd. It's not even October yet. So you have plenty of time to have this filled in. Part two is this is paid for by you. This class costs you nothing, but you're getting 6 college credits and you're not paying a dime. Thank you, taxpayers of Somerset, for funding your free 6 college credits. But that's not quite true. It actually costs you $10.
20.
And 20. It's going to be 20. You're right. It's going to be $10 this time, $10 next time. And you're going to have to bring money for food, which you would have to have anyway. So okay. You make the check out to School District of Somerset, right? And I'd rather you just brought a check. If you bring cash, then someone will steal it. So just make it a check. School District of Somerset by October the 23rd. Okay, can we put that away?
Yeah.
And it's fun. And by the way, we go to Cassetta's afterwards, so that's always good. You can get a huge piece of pizza for like $5. $5 gets you a piece of pizza and a water. You're golden. Or you can go more. Okay, fine. All right. So, as a reminder, we are working on paragraph number 3, which would be issue number 2 for historian number 1. Okay. Did you, as part of your retrieval of stuff, retrieve, where is it? Did you retrieve? I got it. Hold on now. Did you retrieve that overall essay guide? The overall thing. That's it. This one, right here. You are required. I'm going to go walk up and down the aisles. As you're working on this paragraph, I'm going to go up and down the aisles, and I will be checking to see that you have identified for numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, the historian that you're going to address in each of those paragraphs, and the issue that you are going to address in each of those paragraphs. Okay, so you are identifying the historian and the issue. I am also going to ask you, are you reorganizing the order? Remember I said options are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you could also go 1, 4, 5, 2, 3, 6, or 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, or 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6, or I think that was it. The given is 1 is first, 6 is last. And you can't go, And you can't go, But you can go, You can go, You can go, And you can go, Awesome. What I love, she missed it. What I loved is that made perfect sense to you, and she would have been totally confused. She would have been thinking, what do they learn in there? We are not they? And you can go, what do they do in there? Okay, perfect. Otherwise, you're working on your paragraph, you're labeling that thing, and you have 2 keys that are due today, and you have the hour
get that done.
Yes, sir.
I don't have that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't either.
I don't have it either.
Here it is. I got it. If you do not have that full sheet, it's right here.
What do you mean? You missed 3 days this week.
Okay, I'm gonna go up and down the aisles. I'm gonna start over here. Show me that you've thought about the order of your essay and be working on that paragraph. By the way, on Monday, I'm going to assign paragraph number 4. You want to get ahead? Do it. That'll be due Wednesday. Okay.
So we have sort of a use how you operate. You literally do that. We want to that why you do is on certain issues and why issues is work that's supposed to work out. How is this makes sense?
That's restaurant, which we had assigned last Thursday.
Got the idea that 4 3 and 3.
We've already had plenty of time. Yeah, it's just a work day that you do nothing.
So for example, you agree with this, you do nothing today.
Me and Gus just talked about
I read about it.
Look it up. Last Thursday.
Well, that's and this should say in top of it, yeah. And correctly, it's only labeled.
You haven't done your research? You're gonna come at me and talk about it.
I lost my eyes in the door.
On Instagram. Get that
Now,
No, you didn't.
and then you prove that this view is credible historical. See, here's proof that Zinn's claim is valid. Historical evidence.
But by believing last Thursday is a proof never truly passing the test.
We know that by knowing that Zinn thinks that. Here's the proof that Zinn thinks that, and here's the proof that it's true. You're gonna say, see?
How do I grow?
He is an idiot.
Look at those things. How do I grow? I'm gonna become Jehovah so I can steal.
Historical evidence is a story
144,000.
that you're going to show that Columbus is an idiot. Analysis is, see, he is an idiot. Yes.
I don't know. I read their Wikipedia page. It's saying they were witnessing.
Oh my God. Tristan DeSantis.
Yeah, Tristan DeSantis. Yeah, left-handed, this is like their major, no.
Why?
I don't know. This is just like left-handed. No, get that out of here.
So it's I disagree with it. You disagree with right
So I'm just using the phone. Is that
Actually, the US is not
What?
Historians that you disagree with, and they have considered topic is Columbus.
Yeah.
You make a claim, right now, mistakenly argue that Columbus was. Now you prove that that's not claim, it's document evidence. And all that document evidence is proven is that that's the strike example. And then you do, now you do that again.
Because you're saying that they're wrong.
Document evidence that proves that that's what the historian thinks. Historical evidence that's. The second piece of historical evidence. You're walking away. Does that mean you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes it just helps to sort of talk it out. Right? And that's what my intention is.
And you're writing, you're writing good.
So is this making sense?
Great.
So my question to you is, looks like you're disagreeing with Schweiker and Allen.
Paragraph order.
Is anything in here anyway? Good.
So you're second.
We have two pieces of historical evidence.
I don't have to.
You can't.
That's the part that I'm showing. I think
Okay.
you can say the one you referred.
The first piece of historical evidence is used by you to show that Schweikert and Allen might have a point. Columbus was the first European to cross the Atlantic. That's valid. That's your first piece of evidence. The second one says, however, this is inconclusive or it's misleading. Look at this.
So I can say.
The second piece of historical evidence refutes the first piece of historical evidence, which proves the document evidence, which proves the claim.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Is this what you agree?
We disagree on the different.
So you're gonna go back and forth, back and forth. Two,
There's only
four.
two paragraphs, one here.
Disagree, agree, disagree, agree.
On this and then here.
Is that right? What's your first
I switched mine up so it's two.
How are you doing?
I'm like really sorry.
So.
I'll let mine go. Can I go get a-
Schweiker and Allen is who you disagree.
And, like,
Schweiker and Allen.
I don't have. Well, no, there's water on the desk.
What do you, oh, open that left door. Ah. Good job. Okay. You doing okay?
Sorry.
35?
Okay, so I like wrote my, it was at home. I don't know. Well, I do, but I don't. Same. It took me like 2 hours to write the first one, and then it took me like 2.5 to write the second one. So.
No. I'm gonna do it on the reasoning.
Last time I did mine,
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, is this one? So you're going to disagree with Schweiker and Allen. Does your topic sentence mention Schweiker and Allen? And does it say that they mistakenly have some sort of agreement about Columbus? Does you then prove that this is what Schweiker and Allen think that there was some sort of document evidence? Is it footnoted? Good. Do you then prove that this you might have some validity with some sort of evidence to suggest, you know what, maybe Columbus
Yeah.
might appear to be somewhat valid?
You wanted the one.
Then refuted the second piece of evidence, historical evidence, that says, however, it's wrong, this, so I went to see this means Columbus. Now you do it again, for topic number 2.
yeah, that's what I did. I didn't do, I didn't.
Well, that's fine.
Disagreements, I had to.
So that means what you have to do is basically follow this same format without the second piece of historical evidence where you present it with a different piece of historical evidence. It's not the same one. No, you only need the one that you're proving to be true, because you agree with it. Why would you repeat something you agree with? The risk here is that you can't use the one that you used over here, historical evidence over here. You can't say, like I said before. No, different piece of historical evidence.
So like.
Feel better?
Yeah, I would say like.
How are you doing?
Not better than I would put okay, for that. For good, native for that.
I went ahead and I had a lot of time yesterday, so I wrote the next one and I'm working on it. I'm just highlighting the big chunks right now. But other than that, I know what I'm gonna be doing. It's just gonna be.
You disagree with Schweiker and Allen, you agree with Zinn, your first issue is Columbus, your second issue is European. Okay, looks like you know. As I'm walking through this stuff, just a reminder, remember, historians live forever. Zinn says, Schweiker and Allen believe, present tense, They're alive in your hearts. They're alive. Okay? How are you?
Fine, I think the order that I'm doing is justification, disagree, Columbus disagree, and then justification agree, Columbus agree. But, yeah, I'm reordering because I want to use.
So in the paragraphs where you are proving Schweiker and Allen wrong, is Zinn in there at all?
No.
Good, good. Do you have two pieces of historical evidence? One that seems to support Schweiker and Allen and one that refutes. Okay, then you're in good shape. And then do you have analysis that says, yep, see, this means, this shows.
I think so.
Telling me the story, everyone, telling me the story is not analysis. You have to say, see what this shows? This proves that Zinn is right or wrong. Okay? You got it? You have to conclude something. Reach a conclusion. You can't assume, oh, I don't know what I mean. I mean, if you tell me a story about how Columbus chopped off hands, unless you tell me that you think that's terrible, I don't know if you think, hey, that's pretty sweet. Tell me your judgment. That's what analysis is. Judgment.
I don't know. I would say we do like skim it or whatever.
Someone else ready first?
Well, I have.
Including, by the way, the tutoring center opens Monday. It's open almost all day. Monday, if some of you say, hey, can I go have an NHS member read this? Yep. And you'll go to that room and they'll read it. They all took it. They all took this class. Almost all. So they know. They know. Okay. Oh, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. I just started it, so I wasn't here.
Columbus, Europe, culture.
Yeah.
Culture. So it looks like you're agreeing with Zinn.
Yeah.
Right now, and you've written this paragraph,
Yep, I
and you've
have,
written this paragraph.
I have 2 more.
So, feel okay?
Yep, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6.
How are you doing? Or and then that means you have to come up with something. So make sure that you say that the Spanish behave this way and Columbus did for the Spanish, right? Make that connection so that I know, oh, I see, you're playing it.
And then I would just probably say that I talk about how
So that would be Schweiger now. Then starting you disagree with issue number 2. So their claim is that your income was severe.
Wait, no, that's actually.
How are you going to overcome that claim by Schweiker and Allen that the Europeans were superior because the Esther?
This one has to. They came to me by both.
Okay, so you're gonna try and justify it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. That's not really evidence. You need, right, trigger down and say, well, obviously you're, look how cruel the Aztecs were. Not how you can overcome it.
We're gonna say that, oh, this guy,
Might consider, but,
he enslaved them.
an argument
He killed them.
that Europeans slaughtered
Or
each other, they burned people. That you can't say the Europeans better because the Aztecs were cruel. The Europeans were just as cruel. At least find some evidence.
Your phone's ringing. Hotter. Phone. Phone. I think I might write
Okay, so just put out another little flyer here. So I was telling her, she was trying to prove that the Aztec have the superior culture, but Traeger and Allen claimed that, well, no, because the Aztec were cruel, and then she's gonna use a piece of evidence in here that says they slaughtered 80,000 people in 4 days or something like that. And then I suggested, well, why don't you find some evidence that the Europeans were just as cruel, if not more cruel? Find some gory war in Europe where it happened. And she says, but that's not in here. And I said, so? And she said, you mean I can use Google? And I said, yep. Now, is that news to you? That you're not restricted to this for your historical evidence? You did know that? I did tell you that?
I knew
What's
that.
this you? Okay, good. How are you doing? This is how your mind works. Yes, I know. So it looks like you're disagreeing with Stryker and Allen. Your second issue is culture. Oh, you're not doing it. So in this paragraph, is he mentioned at all?
No.
In here?
When I'm doing 2435.
Agree,
yeah.
How are we doing? You're arguing that he's terrible.
Yeah.
That's what you're down.
And then you drove there.
And so, I'm trying to find
I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's just think here. So, like you're helping a little bit. Did Columbus do anything that we went that way? And he was a navigator who successfully crossed the Atlantic. And also what he did to help them become a great nation. How are you two? You like, you know what you're doing? You've read this paragraph? Are there two pieces of historical evidence? How are you? So you just do Stryker and Allen. You haven't really thought about this one quite yet, that's okay. And the issue here is Columbus. Your second issue.
Do I have to use
What? No. This paragraph right here is where you're going to prove that Stryker and Allen think Columbus was good. Well, you prove it wrong here. This is where you're going to prove Zinn's view that that Columbus was bad was right.
Yeah, my big deal, I was like, this is.
What's
tough.
this
Like, why
issue
put them in there if they're not gonna go off?
But you can't, I don't think you can use like.
No.
Yeah.
Name the first one.
No, 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 no. This is gonna be about Columbus. Number 2 is gonna be about Columbus. Number 4 is gonna be about Columbus. This one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this one's about Columbus. Right? What's this one gonna be about? Oh, okay.
She's gonna do the words that I literally highlighted, and I didn't highlight that many, but she's gonna
This
do.
one and this one are gonna be about Columbus. It can be about another thing. Sorry, how are you doing? No. This is about Columbus. Who's the historian you're doing?
Are you open?
Yeah,
Or
this
you
is going to be what's in for Columbus. This is gonna be about convocation of Schweikert and Allen. This is gonna be about sin. What's the order?
I read it.
Yes. Careful, because when you're saying it's really about gold, what you're now doing is you're making an argument that Zim's gonna be making later. So you just need a specific example that says, well, it could have been about religion, because look at this. How are you?
You just provide another stuff. Yeah, your education has to be.
So like my relationship.
And then you analyze it. This paragraph is right. This is this one, how many pieces of story? How many pieces of story?
Oh, my God.
You need 2. Because you need 1 to prove that you have.
Yeah.
So in this one, are there 2 one that defends Schweikert and Allen, and then one that says put it wrong? First, you have to prove it before you disprove it.
I love your mouth.
Yeah, bye, have a great weekend, everybody, see you later. Listen, here's to show that he was. However, Schweikert and Allen are wrong, because look at this piece of evidence that says it was actually.
Ask her if we're supposed to do the homework online or off in the video. Or we're supposed to do it in a. Ask her.
Okay, pause. Do you prove that that's what they think? Do you then prove that that appears to have some validity? Is there some evidence in there that Columbus was brave? Right, Schweikert and Allen say he was brave and noble. Is there any evidence that that's true? Yeah. Circle evidence. Irene. You gotta prove it. You have to prove that it appears to have some validity. Well, he was the one who crossed the Atlantic. Something similar. Right? That's not in dispute. Holy cow, we recorded the whole thing. Oh boy.